Hi, hello, namaste. Good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Kasigari Prasad, Associate Professor, Graphologist, Writer, and Motivational Speaker from the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Annamacharya Institute of Technology and Sciences, Rajampet. In our journey of learning electromagnetic theory, we are here with the third chapter, Magnetostatic Fields and Maxwell's Equations. In this video lecture, we are going to discuss on magnetostatic fields and introduction part. Before we go to the topic, I request all the respected faculty, dear students and all learners, kindly take a notebook and pen to write the important points and equations for better understanding. As we have already discussed about electrostatic fields from chapter 1 and electrostatic fields in material space, electric fields in material space in the second chapter. In this third chapter, we are going to discuss on magnetostatic fields. There are a lot of similarities and dissimilarities between electric and magnetic fields. The electric field capital E and electric flux density capital D are related according to a relation D is equal to epsilon E for a linear material space. Similarly, a magnetostatic field capital H is related with magnetic flux density capital B as B is equal to mu H, where mu is permeability, epsilon is permittivity of the medium. And the discussion on these electric fields and magnetic fields were established by a scientist Oersted in 1820. An electrostatic field is produced by static or stationary charges. If the charges are moving with a constant velocity, a static magnetic or magnetostatic field is produced. So it is clear that when the charges are moving with constant velocity, then magnetostatic fields are supposed to be produced. So a magnetostatic field is produced by a constant current flow or simply a direct current. So this current flow may be due to several reasons. First one is magnetization currents as in permanent magnets, electron beam currents as in vacuum tubes, and conduction currents as in current carrying wires. Now our study is confined for magnetostatic fields, and it is very important because these electric and magnetic fields are associated in our day-to-day life in many applications. For an example, the development of the motors, transformers, microphones, compass, telephone bell ringers, television focusing controls, advertising displays, magnetically leviated high-speed vehicles, memory stores, magnetic separators and many others. All are related based on the magnetic phenomena, and they play a vital role in our everyday life. So in order to analyze the magnetostatic fields, essentially there are two important laws. First one is Biot-Savart's law and second one is Ampere's circuit law. As similar to Coulomb's law and Gauss law, which we have discussed in the first chapter to analyze electrostatic fields, similarly here we are supposed to discuss Biot-Savart's law and Ampere's circuit's law in order to analyze magnetostatic fields. Now let us study about Biot-Savart's law. So Biot-Savart's law states that the differential magnetic field intensity dH produced at a point P. What is that? The differential magnetic field intensity dH produced at a point P by the differential current element ideal is proportional to the product ideal and the sign of angle alpha between the two elements and the line joining P to the element and is inversely proportional to the square of distance r between the point and the element. So this is the definition. Let us be very clear by analyzing through a diagram. See, in this diagram we are having a current carrying conductor. This curve indicates that it is a current carrying conductor. And let us consider that a current of I is moving in this conductor. So as the current is moving in this conductor, that too we are assuming that it is a uniform current, constant current. So magnetic field is produced across this conductor, and in order to analyze how much amount of magnetic field is produced due to this current in the conductor at a point P, at a distance of r, we are now going to find out. See, there is an angle subtended alpha between this conductor point to that of the point where we are going to find the electric field, and this distance is at a distance of r. Now for a differential length, we are going to take for a differential length dl, the amount of magnetic field produced is, that differential magnetic field dH is directly proportional to the product of IDL and sine angle, and is inversely proportional to the square of distance. Therefore we have written dH is directly proportional to IDL sine alpha and is inversely proportional to r square. Now let us release that proportionality constant. As we release that proportionality constant, dH is equal to k IDL sine alpha by r square, where k is the constant of proportionality, and the value of k is equal to 1 divided by 4 pi. Now let us substitute that one. dH is equal to IDL sine alpha by 4 pi r square. Now dH is equal to IDL divided by 4 pi r square, and that sine alpha is in a particular angle, therefore it is in a particular direction, and the direction is having some unit vector that we have taken as unit vector in the earth direction AR. So IDL cross AR divided by 4 pi r square, and unit vector AR is r divided by r square. We know that value from our basics of vectors. So I have written here, it is IDL cross r divided by 4 pi r cube. 4 pi r cube. This is the final equation of Biot-Savart's law as per the concept. Now to analyze this, in which direction magnetic field is going to produce, we are having an example of right hand thumb rule. According to right hand thumb rule, let us consider a conductor in which current I is flowing in the upward direction. As the current is moving here in upward direction as shown in the figure, let us circle your fingers across that conductor, and the direction in which your thumb is indicated is directed in that direction as the current is moving. Now the magnetic field is circulating across that conductor in the direction of your fingers. Therefore dH is circulating across the conductor, around the conductor to say, and current is moving in the upward direction. The same thing can be explained, analyzed with the help of law of screw. As the screw is moving inside, the current is, that means the magnetic field is produced across that one, that means around that screw, and current is moving in the straight direction. Okay. Now note that the magnetic field which is produced here can be taken in two ways. That is, either the magnetic field is moving inward direction or the magnetic field is moving outward direction. Now there are two symbols here, one a dot enclosed in a circle and a cross enclosed in a circle. The dot enclosed in a circle indicates that magnetic field H is moving outward. Similarly, the circle enclosed in a circle, the cross enclosed in a circle indicates that magnetic field H is coming inward. Now we know that, as we have discussed from Coulomb's law, there we have analyzed the electrostatic field or electric field produced in a line charge, surface charge and volume charge. Similarly here also we go for three different configurations, that is line current, surface current and volume current distributions. See, as shown in the figure 1, it is a conductor in which it is a line current, in which line current I is moving there for a differential length of IDL. So over a surface it is having surface current density, that is K. Similarly for a volume it is having a current density of J. So KDS, JDV and IDL is the current distributions in these line, surface and volume charge, volume current elements. Okay. If we define K as surface current density, its units is amperes per meter, and for J volume charge density is amperes per meter square. Therefore, we write all these source elements are related as IDL is equal to KDS is equal to JDV. Thus, in terms of distributed sources, the Biot-Savart's law can be rewritten as H is equal to closed integral L IDL divided by 4 pi r square into AR, that is for line current. For surface current, integral S KDS cross AR divided by 4 pi r square surface current. And for volume current, H is equal to integral V ZdV cross AR divided by 4 pi r square is the volume current. Likewise, we have listed 3 different types of currents and the magnetic field produced from those current elements: line current element, surface current element, and volume current element. Now, let us analyze the amount of magnetic field produced from a line current element. So, therefore, we have consider a current carrying filamentary conductor of having finite length from point A to point B as shown in the figure, and also assume that the current carrying element is placed in the Z axis and its upper and lower ends are respectively subtended with some angles like alpha 1 and alpha 2 as shown in the figure, and at a point P we are going to determine the magnetic field capital H, and the magnetic field capital H is going to produced here, and that magnetic field at a point P is going to be calculated or determined here. So, from this diagram, let us consider from point A to point B, it is a current carrying element placed in the Z axis with respect to origin and with respect to Z axis, and at a point P the magnetic field is going to be produced, and that magnetic field is moving inward towards inward. How can we identify this point P? Magnetic field H is indicated with a cross enclosed in a circle. It indicates that the magnetic field produced is moving inward direction. Okay. Now, let the current is flowing from point A to point B. Also, the current element IDL is at, where you have placed this current element, at 0, 0, Z point. Then according to Biot-Savart's law, we know that DH is equal to, it is the product of that one, IDL cross R divided by 4 pi r cube. We know, just now we have calculated Biot-Savart's law. As per that we have written DH is equal to IDL cross R divided by 4 pi r cube. So, finally, DH is equal to IDL product of R divided by 4 pi r cube. But we know what is DL? DL is the differential length. In which direction it is placed? In Z direction. Therefore, DZ, its unit vector AZ. Now, R is resultant vector. R is the resultant vector. So, this resultant vector we have calculated as rho A rho minus Z AZ. From this diagram, R is equal to rho A rho minus Z AZ. So, see, on x axis here we are having rho, and on Z axis we are having Z, and we are going to calculate the resultant vector R. So, it is the subtraction of one to the other. Therefore, we have written rho A rho minus Z AZ. Okay. So, DL product with R is equal to, now we are getting a product of this one. So, rho DZ A phi, because AZ cross A rho we will be getting A phi. So, this one DL cross R is equal to rho DZ A phi. Okay, right. Now, from this the final equation DH is equal to I, in place of DL cross R we have written rho DZ A phi whole divided by 4 pi r cube, means we have substituted the value of R, rho A rho minus Z AZ whole cube. This is the final equation. Now, with respect to this, DH is equal to I rho DZ divided by 4 pi rho square plus Z square whole power 3 by 2 into A phi. We have just rewritten this equation as whole cube is there, we have written as 3 by 2. Okay. So, there is nothing change in this equation. Now, from this, if you want to calculate the total magnetic field, the total magnetic field can be calculated as H is equal to integral I rho dz divided by 4 pi rho square plus z square whole power 3 by 2 into AFI. Okay, let z is equal to, now we are considering some assumptions. Z is equal to rho cot alpha. Therefore, you differentiate that one, dz is equal to minus rho cosecant square alpha d alpha. Therefore, h is equal to integral I rho, now we have substituted dz value, minus rho cosecant square alpha d alpha divided by 4 pi rho square plus z square whole power 3 by 2 into AFI. Just we substituted the values. Now in continuation h is equal to minus 1 divided by 4 pi. We have taken 1 divided by 4 pi with respect to minus also outside, and we have taken the limits also from this diagram. What is the limits? Lower angle alpha 1, lower subtended angle alpha 1, upper subtended angle alpha 2. So therefore the limits will be also from alpha 1 to alpha 2 I rho square cosecant square alpha d alpha divided by rho square plus z square whole power 3 by 2 into into A5. Now minus I divided by 4 pi integral alpha 1 to alpha 2. You have taken I also outside the integral, rho square cosecant square alpha d alpha divided by rho cube plus z cube into A5. That is equal to minus I by 4 pi integral alpha 1 to alpha 2. We have written rho square cosecant square alpha d alpha divided by rho cube plus, now we are substituting the value of z here, rho cube cot cube alpha into A5. Okay, we are substituting the value of z here. See what is z? Rho cot alpha. Therefore we have written rho cube cot cube alpha into A5. Okay, now h is equal to minus I divided by 4 pi integral alpha 1 to alpha 2 rho square cosecant square alpha d alpha divided by, we have taken rho cube common, 1 plus cot cube alpha into A5. So rho square and rho cube they get cancelled, and we cancel here, and we will be getting minus I divided by 4 pi rho, taken rho also outside, integral alpha 1 to alpha 2 cosecant square alpha d alpha divided by 1 plus cosecant cube alpha. We have written cosecant cube alpha into A5. That is equal to minus I divided by 4 pi rho integral alpha 1 to alpha 2, and this cosecant square alpha and cosecant cube alpha cancels, and we will be getting 1 divided by cosecant alpha d alpha A5. Therefore minus I divided by 4 pi integral alpha 1 to alpha 2, 1 divided by cosecant alpha means sin alpha d alpha A5. So you have taken minus inside and integrated that one and applied the limits. We got h is equal to I divided by 4 pi rho cos alpha 2 minus cos alpha 1 into A5. So the final expression for Biot-Savart's law in order to find the magnetic field current carrying conductor is h is equal to I divided by 4 pi rho alpha 2 minus alpha 1 into A5 is the final equation. So this equation is generally applicable for any straight filamentary conductor of finite length to determine magnetic field. So from this final equation we observed that h is always along the unit vector Ax, that is along concentric circular paths irrespective of the length of the wire or the point of interest. This magnetic field H is always along the unit vector Ax. Now there are two special cases. Let us consider the two special cases. When the conductor is semi-infinite with respect to point P, so that point A is now at 0, 0, 0, while point B is at 0, 0, infinity. Okay, semi-infinite, and the angle subtended alpha 1 is equal to 90 degrees now, and alpha 2 is 0 degrees. Then our final equation h is equal to I divided by 4 pi rho cos alpha 2 minus cos alpha 1 into A5. Substitute the value of alpha 1 and alpha 2. We will be getting h is equal to I divided by 4 pi rho into a phi direction. And when the conductor is infinite in length, then point A is at 0 comma 0 comma minus infinity, point B is at 0 comma 0 comma plus infinity, alpha 1 is equal to 180 degrees and alpha 2 is equal to 0 degrees. Then h is equal to 1 divided by 2 pi rho into a phi. So likewise we have calculated two special cases in order to determine magnetic field of a conductor. Okay. Thanking you. Yours Dr. Kasigari Prasad, Associate Professor, Graphologist, Writer and Motivational Speaker. I request you all to kindly subscribe our channel Kasigari Prasad, which is trying to motivate students, faculty and all the learners, inspiring them, motivating them towards engineering subjects and inspiring talks and personality development talks. Apart from these, being a graphologist, with respect to handwriting, we can analyze our personality. Those type of special talks are also going to be delivered through our channel. Hence, I request all the students and all the viewers to kindly subscribe our channel and share this good information for others. Jai Hind. Thank you very much.